Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Change with Him, Real Raw Redeemed podcast. I'm Sarah, and I've got a nursing baby on me. So if you hear some suckling, that is what is going on over here. Um, Whoa, what a morning. Today is April 8th, and it's quite funny because it's a morning or a day, depending on where you are, of this eclipse that everyone's talking about. And I'm like, what is going on with this? My husband and I were talking about how eclipses happen all the time. Like, what is it about this one that makes this one such a big deal? So, anyways, I spent the morning with God, and wow, life is different. Life is different. Life is weird in a lot of ways when you surrender to His ways, and when you say, Lord, have it your way. I woke up today hearing from God. And a lot of times I question or I wonder like what this is from God. And even though I say I question and I wonder, I actually know. And a lot of times it's a test of obedience. Are you going to be obedient? Are you going to listen? Are you going to say that you know what this is? And the phrase that I woke up with was, I don't know you, but I am you. And this is what I know is part of the testimony and story that God has brought not only me through, but my husband through, my family through, and what allowed my son to come through and to truly be here with us, to be a part of the story of redemption for us. And I woke up with that hearing from God, that in some ways, to some people, might not make sense. I don't know you, but I am you. And I was like, really, God? I don't know. Is this you? I don't know you, but I am you. And I knew what that meant. It was a phrase that I was supposed to share with. There's a group at our church that goes through every time they do this. It's called Embrace Grace, and it's for women who find themselves in that space. Okay, I'm going to try to not cry. Who find themselves in the position of unplanned and unexpected pregnancies. And wow. It's really difficult to say this now. That's where I was before I had my son. And he's here. And it's just been so healing in so many ways to say yes to God's ways. Yes to trusting Him that He's going to provide not only for me, but for everything in my life, for my husbands, for my sons now, for my daughters, for our families, and really believe for it. Last Friday, I had a women's coffee. I've talked about that on other episodes, and this past week was just as incredible as all of them, as every month we meet. And the woman who hosts them and puts them on talked about believing for it. And what are we believing for? And really, really, really going big with our belief. And in the beginning of that pregnancy, I did not believe. I did not believe that I had what it takes to take on being the mother of another child. And so when I woke up today and I heard God say, I don't know you, but I am you, I knew that He was asking me to write something to these women in this round of Embrace Grace. This Saturday, they're having a baby shower for 6 women who are graduating from the 12-week program. And I don't have a lot to give financially right now, but I know God's gifted me with other things. And one of those gifts is words and letting them come through. And so I wrote this long letter today to those women about my experience of finding myself in that place of being face to face with an unplanned and unexpected pregnancy, and the way God used that to completely transform me, and how so many things in my life have changed because of declaring his name and saying, I believe, and believing for it. And so I woke up hearing from him, I don't know you, but I am you. And wrote that letter, texted my pastor, who I've never even really said hi to before. I don't know about you, but if you go to a church, generally you don't know the pastor. You just listen to them. They're up on a platform, on a pedestal, on a stage, and they're at this building, and you go to this place and you're like, wow, that was an incredible sermon. I'm feeling so hoorah, uplifted, motivated, inspired. Let's go do the thing. And then you leave and you go back to your old ways. And God's like, I didn't create the church for that. That is actually not what the church is for or about. And we feel convicted of that a lot of times when we open ourselves up to allowing God to come in and to transform us and change us from within. And that's why the change with him, that's why this podcast, and saying yes to him and using our story for his glory. He has said that to me recently, and I've said that to him. I want to use my story for your glory. And so he's giving me opportunities to, and to allowing me to share with others too. And just let them know, really, ultimately, it all comes down to one thing. It is the love that God has for us, that he continuously and constantly pours out on us, and just how much he loves us. It's about a loving relationship. It's not about religion. And in the coming out of sharing this in my relationship with Jesus more and more frequently recently, there's a lot of people who say different things. Some of them my heart goes out to, because in the words that they share and what comes through from their perspective is that God is a mean God, an unjust God, an unloving God, a condemning God, and a God who likes or is okay with pain and us going through that. And that it's about things that it's not, that it's about religion and not relationship. And so my heart goes out to people who share their perspective that it is that. And people who feel maybe blocked from hearing him. And someone shared recently in a post on Facebook that I shared about the way that God, sorry if you can hear my dog, he's in the back. I'm recording in a different location today. That God is, that it's difficult for them to hear from God. And her response was, I'm always, 1 second. Hey, stop. See if I can get him to stop barking. Maybe for a second. She shared, I'm always envious of people that say they hear from the Lord. I am to wonder if I'm trusting him enough. I've been through so much that's taught me the opposite, that to trust fully in him means the potential for more situations that are painful or scary. And honestly, I can't take any more of those. So I struggle to trust. And then I feel guilt because I'm not obeying. And this hit me deeply. She shared, I'm happy to hear your story and see him working in your life. And a lot of us feel justified. This is actually something that came up for me on Friday in the women's group, was that it's easy to. We were talking about believing for it. And I said, it's so easy. We were talking about ways that it's easy and ways that it's challenging. And I said, it's so easy for me often to more easily believe that God's glory and his richness and his goodness and his grace and his mercy and his love and his abundance and all of the incredible things are for others. And it's so easy for me to believe in that. Like when I hear other people tell their story, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. No, that's not the way. God has not called you to stay in that place. His love is for you. His redemption is for you. His grace is for you. And to really, really, with all of my heart, believe in that. But then when it comes to me, it's a different story. And I felt this last Friday, specifically when we're talking about really what it is to believe for it. And I felt this, and I felt her words when she shared this came through. I'm so happy to hear your story and see him working in your life. And we have this, what about me? And we had a guest speaker at our church last night at a leadership conference that shared the story of Moses. And when Moses was standing in the awness of the holy place, right? They got to take off your shoes for you standing on holy ground, when he was the burning bush story. And at the end, he said, "But why me?" Right? God is calling him to do this incredible, glorious, miraculous thing to go save the people who have yet to be free, because they're still in bondage and slavery. They're still being held by, the Pharaoh and all that. And Moses says, "But why me?" And I love that the guest speaker shared that it's kind of like when we have a breakup, when we say, "Oh, it's not you, it's me." That is when those are the words that God speaks. It's not you, it's me. Like, stop focusing on yourself, focus on me. And this is really resonance and truth of what comes through with all of our stories. We say, "Well, why me? Like, why would you break up with me? Why would you leave me? Why would you hurt me? Why would you forsake me? Why am I not good enough?" Really is the ultimate question that we're asking. And God says, "It's not you, it's me. Stop focusing on yourself and focus on me." And so when other people share things like this, I'm so happy to hear your story and see him working in your life. We're making it about desiring to be in that place, and that's in that position. And a lot of people share, when they share the glory and the goodness and the richness of God and the way that he's working in their lives, even if the entire story isn't about that, and they do share about the struggle, and they do share about the tribulations and the trials and the ups and the downs and this ways and that ways, people ultimately see the happy ending, the hero's journey. Like, "Oh, God loves you, but not me." I'm so happy to hear your story and see him working in your life. But I just don't think he's working in mine the same way. And that causes not only ourselves, but God so much pain. And she shared this. I'm so always so envious of people that say that they hear from the Lord. And that envy, that makes the enemy laugh. You see, because the enemy loves envy. And when we use and declare words like, "I'm always," and not just kind of envious, "I'm always so envious," that's evidence that he exists. It's evidence that the enemy exists. It's evidence that he's gotten in. The enemy loves when we feel envy. And envy is just a feeling. And God has came to not shame us for having feelings, because he created us with the ability to have feelings, but to go to him with all things. He cares about us so deeply, and he loves us more than we'll ever know. That's what most of us have as the problem, is that we just don't know how much God loves us, that we project and portray this conditional love on the way that God loves, and he doesn't. He does not love the same way that we love. Thank God for him and the way he does. But when we feel that, we feel envy when we hear others' stories. And a lot of what I do is just sharing a story of the way that things are, the versus the way that they used to be, and they're far from perfect. They're still filled with struggle. They're still filled with internal conflict. They're still filled with lots of chaos sometimes, but that is just of the mind. That's of the soul, right? Our feelings, our will, our mind, our thoughts, our emotions, that's our soul. But we're not a soul in a body. We're spirits in a physical body who have a soul. We've been gifted those things from God. We've also been gifted the ability to hear from God and to know who we are in him and what we're not. And that's where the power of reading God's word and allowing his truth and his word to speak light and life into us really have the greatest impact on us. And so when she shared, "I wonder if I'm trusting him enough," that is a question that you can go to him with instead of hiding from him. We can ask him, "God, this is really hard to trust you. And it's probably hard to trust you because I don't have the same relationship with you that I do with others. And it's hard if I'm being completely open and honest," which I am, because I have no reason to not be. I have a hard time trusting anyone. Don't you see? I have a hard time trusting myself. I have a hard time trusting this person. And I'm validated in my reasons and justifications and excuses for not trusting them. And Lord, I don't want that kind of relationship with you. We can be open and honest with Him and allow this truth to come through. I don't want to have a difficult time trusting you. And I am. God honors honesty, He honors integrity. And He calls us to be. He calls us to live in honesty and in truth and understand that He is the truth. And He already knows all these things. Don't you see? He already knows. He already has access to us. He already knows all of our thoughts. But He's not going to come in and be so abrasive and say it like that. Oh, I already know all your thoughts. Like he wants us to desire a relationship with Him and to come with Him or come to Him and not give in to envy. Because when we do that, we're giving in to the enemy, don't you see? Because we're keeping ourselves from God, because then we have to say, I just don't think I'm trusting Him enough. And so, like, why would anyone who I can't trust want a relationship with me? I don't want an untrusting relationship. Don't you see? That's the reason why I ended the relationship with that person or that person or that person, or why I don't talk to that person anymore. Because they just can't be trusted and I can't trust them. Therefore, I need distance from them. There's so many things that we can learn about the relationship with human experiences that we can also learn about our relationship with God. The foundation of it has to be trust. And if we are wondering if I trust Him enough, we can understand that that is a story that has come from the enemy's hands. The enemy can come in and say, are you really sure that you can trust? I just don't think you are trusting enough. You're not trusting in God enough. And so is He really going to trust you with all those good things that you're asking Him for, that you're seeking for, that you're going to Him for? Maybe you shouldn't go to Him. Maybe you should just take things into your own hands. And the enemy will have us wonder certain things. I wonder if I'm trusting God enough. Are you really? And imply and plant in seeds of doubt. If we look at the first story in the Bible, that's what the enemy did. He planted seeds of doubt. And he asked Eve, is that really what you see? You really see that God would give you all these beautiful, abundant, wonderful things and then withhold something from you? Say that you can't have that too? That yummy, delicious looking fruit? Are you sure that's what He said? Are you sure you can trust those words? I'm not sure. And the enemy wants us to be unsure. He wants us to be envious, and he wants us to use words and language because life and death is in the power of the tongue. Like, I'm always envious of people who say they hear from the Lord. Are you sure you hear from the Lord? How can you really know? Like this morning, when God showed me to write that letter, I was like, I don't know. But living in obedience is living a life where you just do things and you really don't know why you're doing things. And when you're doing them, a lot of times it feels crazy. It feels like, well, wait, is this me? And you just need to step forward and say, okay, God, if it is you, if it's from you, I trust you. And just do it and not care or worry about the outcome or having any kind of expectancy or certainty around a particular outcome, because a lot of times it's going to look different anyway. And when it looks different, then the enemy can say, see, you don't hear. Don't you see? And you're like, well, how do I see? Maybe I don't even see. How do I hear but not see? Or how do I see but not hear? I don't know. This whole thing is so confusing. And we know that confusion is not from God. Confusion is from the enemy. And so he wants us to wonder certain things. He wants us to wonder if we're trusting in God enough. They say faith the size of a mustard seed, and there's no accident to him using that parable. Don't you see that the size of a mustard seed is the teeniest, tiniest little seed, and that's all we need. That's all we need to believe that we can trust Him and do trust Him enough. And of course, what she shared is so true for every human who's ever walked the earth. I've been through so much that has taught me the opposite. And the enemy wants us to look at what the world has taught us, that it's a scary place, it's a fear-filled place, that we need to constantly be worried and afraid. And God came to teach and show us another way. He came to teach and show us the opposite way of the world. But when the enemy can divert and direct and focus our attention on these things that taught us, we see that we have been taught. We've been taught by the world, and the things that we're taught by God are the opposite of the things that the world will teach you. We've all been through so many things that have taught us so many things. But if we use those things to say that fully trusting in God is opening up a gateway, a portal, a potential for more situations that are painful or scary, we're going to go through painful and scary situations anyway. So why not go through them with God leading the way, with our faith and our trust in Him leading the way? It's inevitable. We're going to go through scary and painful situations. And what she says is, I honestly can't take any more of those. And I've been there too. And I have felt that too. And I've said that too. I can't take any more of this. And the truth was, I couldn't. I couldn't take any more of them on my own. I needed God to show me that He's already taken care of them. And I needed to believe for it. Hold on just a second. Hi, buddy. He's waking up. It's constantly. If you have been a parent to a newborn, you know it's sleeping and pooping and waking up and all the things. And just trying to squeeze in things in between that time. So that's why we're here today. And that is what we're doing in this space. So thank you for hearing my little baby squeaks and giggles and farts. So this was the conclusion from this. So I struggle to trust. And it's like, wait a minute, that can't be the end of your story. No, what are you doing? And the recognition of this and the awareness of this, that you struggle with this. Are you just going to stop and leave it there and stay stuck with the struggle? That's what God has called to free us from and redeem us from. Those are the very reasons why we can choose to turn to Him and go to Him instead of sharing things like this. Then I feel guilt because I'm not obeying, because I can't hear what He's saying. Well, if I can't hear what you're saying, how can I obey what you're saying? That would be like if my child, my daughter, if I say, hey, honey, go clean your room. And she says, huh? I didn't hear you. Well, she could say and be right about it. Well, I didn't obey you because I didn't hear you. I didn't know what you wanted me to do. When God speaks, we hear. And if we are wondering if we hear, we need to just begin to declare that we hear. We need to begin to use the power of our words, because life and death is in the power of the tongue. If we don't want to feel any more situations that allow us to feel death that are painful or scary because we say things like, I honestly can't take any more of those. Well, the truth is you're going to experience more of those because we're human. And until we go to the other side of this life and we're free from all of that stuff, because we're living with Him for eternity, then we're going to continue to experience those things. So we get to begin to declare, I do hear the voice of God. I do trust God. I do believe in God. I do believe that I hear from Him. I know that I hear my Father's voice. My sheep hear my Father's voice. And we can just say that. And we're not like Baba sheep, but we are creators or creations of Him. And so just like I know my daughter's voice and I'm her mother and she knows my voice, she could pick it out in a crowd. It's the same with God. And it's not always an audible voice. And so this is what I shared with her, is it sometimes just a nudge. I hope you guys can hear me. So I shared, I've only ever once heard. Through the way, it's been an audible hearing. And I heard someone recently say it's more like an internal nudge that they follow, that they call a hearing, what some call intuition. I believe there's many ways we quote unquote hear that are not with our ears. Many of us, so cute. Many of us hear in ways that are not with our ears, many of which we don't know, or we don't come to know we heard until years later when it's clear how things came together. You see, I think that's part of what's going on, is we want to know right now because we want to be right about how. We want to know right now because we want to be right about how. This is what I heard from God, and I know this, and I am right about this. Uh, I heard from him, and then I did this, and then this was the outcome, and it was favorable, and it was desirable, and it made me feel good. It's not it's not always going to be like that. In fact, most of the time it's not like that. In fact, most of the time you're going to question that. Was that from God? Did I hear that from God? Can he just come down and like give me one of these like head nods? Like, yeah, that was me. Yep, that's what I said. We want confirmation. But a lot of times we hear it and then it goes away. But if it's meant for us, it will come back to stay. It'll come back time and time again. We'll hear it over and over again because he desires for us to be obedient, and he knows what we desire, and he wants to give us our heart's desires. But not everything is going to come through crystal clear, as in this audible voice of God. Oh, you heard from me. Hello, this is God. Don't you see? And we're like, oh, hey, God. What's up? It doesn't work like that. But a lot of times there's just this internal nudge. It's an internal, like, yeah, I know I should do that thing. And how can we know that it's God? You see, well, it lines up with his word. Is it in service? Is it serving someone other than yourself? Is it putting him first? Is it highlighting him? Is it allowing others to get to know him? And a lot of times this is just an internal knowing. It's an internal nudge. It's not an audible hearing voice of God. So we need to understand there's so many things at hand. And the enemy's trying to come in and convince us that we don't hear from God when we're created to, when we know we do. And sometimes it's a weird thing that we're being asked to do. Sometimes it's just a step blindly into a space that we can't see and not knowing what the outcome is going to be. But it's an internal nudge and knowing. I know that that was from God. Well, why? Because A, it's weird, and I wouldn't just up and want to do that on my own. I would never come up with that. And it honors God if I do that. Okay, well, chances are that that was from God. So walk forth and do the thing. And if you're scared to do the thing, tell God, hey, God, I'm scared to do the thing. Just like Moses did. When God was like, hey, I'm calling you to go set the captives free. He was like, I can't, God. I got to stutter. I can't. I'm not qualified. I'm not capable. I'm not equipped. And God was like, ugh, jeez. Okay, I'll send Aaron. And so God sent Aaron with Moses. And that's the power and beauty of reading the Bible or learning about it and studying about it and going to church to just deepen your faith and your strength and your relationship with it is like, oh, okay. So it's not just me. I'm not the only one who felt like I didn't hear. Yeah, I'm not sure if I heard you, God. You want me to what? But we can know that we hear. And sometimes it's crazy things. Like it's just a little soft, quiet internal nudge. Or sometimes it's a big, big, scary thing, like what God was calling Moses to do. And he's like, yeah, I just don't think I heard you. I don't think I heard you correctly. I don't think I heard you clearly. You see, I'm busy. You see, I'm living my life. I'm over here doing this other thing. And God's like, yeah, I know you are, but I'm speaking to you. I'm talking to you. I'm telling you to do this thing. And a lot of times we can dismiss this, don't you see? We can go, I just don't know if I hear from you. Or I don't know if I can trust what I heard. How do I know that I'm not going to get hurt? Whew. So there's a lot. There's a lot going on. So we've only got like another minute, but I guess what I want to say to end this is trust that God is for you. What if you were to believe that God is for you and declare and decree that you do hear and you see, and that God gave you spiritual eyes to see and spiritual ears to hear? Then what? I want to find this really quick. That guy last night from our leadership conference, he shared a verse, and it's from, I think it's 1 Corinthians, that the things that God has for us, no eyes have seen, no ears have heard. And oh my gosh, I want to find that verse. If I can't find it, I don't think I'm going to be able to. Wait just a minute. Here it is. Okay. So did I not write it down? Maybe I didn't. I'm going to find it and I'm going to leave it in the show note. Here it is. Thank you, Jesus. Okay, 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9. But as it is written, No eye has not seen, no ear has heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things at which God has prepared for those that love him. So go read 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9. That's a different version from one that I normally like, but it's such an incredible verse. And just begin to declare and decree that you do hear from God in the way that he knows you hear best. And just believe for it and watch what he'll do with it. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon, and know that I'm praying for you. Bye for now.